Welcome inside another edition of SVG's on the Gridiron series. We're taking you behind the scenes in what is no doubt one of the most unique seasons in the history of the National Football League, and a lot of fantastic work being done on the scene, behind the scenes by many who work in the world of video and media production. We're joined by one of them today. We are pleased to be speaking with Jay O'Brien. He is Vice President of Broadcasting and Gameday Productions for the Baltimore Ravens. Jay, fantastic to see you. Congratulations on a successful week one. How's you and everyone at the team doing?
I mean, everyone's doing great. I think we were all, thrilled to get through a first game and figure out what that was going to feel like for the in-house production for our video board show, with the new audio procedures for a game day without fans, and also for our field crew with the new protocols of how many folks can be on the field versus filming from the stands, and making sure we still delivered great content to our fans. I think the feedback was great. The content certainly looked great, but we're getting into a nice rhythm right now.
Awesome. Really glad to hear that. A lot of places where we could go, but I definitely want to start with that week one experience for you at M&T Bank Stadium, one of the better home field advantages in the National Football League, but without fans, it's obviously a totally different ball game now for you guys. I wonder if you could take the audience through what game day was like on Sunday. What are some of the safety protocols that you and or the league have put in place? How different does your control room look? I have to imagine Sunday was kind of an odd experience for you. What was it like?
It was definitely odd. I mean, it's Coach Harbaugh, and I think it was Calais Campbell on our team said it after the game, but he said that the team needed to bring their own energy. Mm-hmm. And I think that definitely was our feeling as well. It's weird when you're used to producing for 70,000 fans, and you're used to feeding off of that energy and doing different things in our broadcast to enhance that energy, and getting into the game day and not being able to feel the crowd and make decisions of our broadcast based on the crowd was a little bit odd. It certainly helps to win, but we were lucky that we had 3 stadium practices in the month leading up to the home opener. So we were really able to make sure everybody on our crew understood the protocols and what they were, make sure everybody knew where they could and couldn't go on game day, that we had to change our routes. We had to change some of our camera positions and how we got to those camera positions. And so, yeah, I mean, there's sanitizer everywhere. We're all in masks. There's plexiglass everywhere. And we trimmed the numbers of our in control room crew a tiny bit because there were no fans. Mm-hmm. Things like our around the league highlight editor, we didn't need that. Some of our stats producer, we were able to do without that person, and we trimmed down the amount of replay operators we had and the amount of video shaders that we have. And we lost a couple cameras because we don't have access to our handheld cameras to be on the field, which we have 4 handheld cameras on a typical game day. So we were down those 4 cameras. But otherwise, it was a pretty normal game day. We didn't have our normal crew meeting where we all got together in person. That was all done over headsets, and felt like we had a pretty good show. The challenge for us was that because we didn't have fans in the stadium, but we still wanted to engage with them, we decided to produce a pregame show for our digital and social media channels, and so we repurposed our control room to produce 2 shows simultaneously: the in-stadium show and the pregame show, which went 45 minutes long. And so that was interesting. And the 3 stadium practices really gave us a chance to work on that because we also produced a training camp live show from those stadium practices. So I think the 3 practices really helped us get into a rhythm and make sure that the right content was going to the right place, and that it all looked great, sounded great.
All right. So for the many of us that couldn't be in the stadium, unfortunately, on game day, you mentioned some of the content that maybe you didn't have to create anymore, things like red zone-esque highlights from around the league, things like that, maybe reduced on replay a bit. But what was going on your video boards? Was there safety messages for the people who were in the building? Was it largely replay just for the benefit of the coaching staff? What were we seeing on the big boards in the building?
So we tried to keep our normal show for pregame and in-game as much as the same as possible, because we want to be ready for if and when fans return to the stadium. And so we didn't want to lose that energy too. Mm-hmm. We didn't want to lose the the excitement in the control room and the momentum that we usually build as a season goes on. So for pregame, we still had our team still had their pregame introductions. We enhanced our pregame camera coverage with additional robotic cameras, since we can't have manned cameras in the team intro tunnel, for example. So certainly our robotic camera operator was working hard on Sunday, because we had a robotic camera for player arrivals, which is a huge early morning piece of content for us. And then we had, I think, 4 robotic cameras throughout the player intro tunnel, to still have those angles. So we'll be ready when the fans come back, and we still have that inside access look that really builds energy. We still went through our total team introduction sequence, and all the way up through kickoff, we acted like it was a packed house. Mm-hmm. And then that in game, same thing. I mean, replays after every play, great angles. So when our fans come back, they can get those angles that they're used to. And we pride ourselves on showing as many angles as possible. I think we did a study after last season just to see how many more angles we show versus a television broadcast, which has, is building on storylines and things like that and having conversations. Mm-hmm. And so I think last year we delivered 40% more replays than a television broadcast. So we wanted to keep that momentum going. And the one place it changed was during commercial breaks. Certainly during commercial breaks, where a lot of our content, or all of our content, is fan focused. Without fans in the stands, we certainly didn't execute on most of that content, but still executed on all of the team energy content, the team prompts, highlight tapes, highlight edits coming when we're coming back on defense, things like that, to still get try to create that energy. So we were trying to, even though the team had to bring their own energy, we were trying to bring a little extra for them.
I mean, I appreciate it. This is just a tiny little side or whatever. I appreciate it out of my whole day of watching games on week 1. I love the inflatable tube men behind the. I was like, we can't have people in the stadium. I'm into that.
That was a great idea by our DP Eddie Coughlin. Just had this idea in the offseason. Like, wouldn't it be great to put inflatable tube men in the stands? And we laughed, and then he said, "I'm actually serious." And so. I think at the Ravens, we're pretty unique in that we have a game entertainment committee that spans the organization, from our team president, our head of PR, and some other PR folks, operations, stadium operations, corporate partnerships, marketing, digital media. I'm sure I'm leaving another department or two out. And so we all get together and bounce ideas off each other. And so when I pitched inflatable tube men, that was Eddie's idea. I didn't know whether I was going to get laughed out of the team's chat that we were on or not. And they were like, "Yeah, let's go for it." The other thing we built, our marketing team built I'll say our mascot Poe built his own nest in the stands. Nice. And without fans, he can build a nest. So we had some fun. Our drum line was still there in the stands, and they played a bunch during the game. Cool. Our coach commented in the post-game press conference that it was awesome to have them, that they brought some energy. So yeah, I mean, anything we can do to still kind of have that home field feeling.
Sure. And audio is obviously a big part of that. I wanted to kind of get your take on that. A lot has been made about the league mandated, in-crowd audio, enhanced audio, the decibels at 70. I'd love to get your take on what that is like, and also combining that with the music in the building. Like you said, we've talked to people on the Major League Baseball side and, in some of the bubbles, it's like, hey, the music doesn't necessarily need to tailor to the fans anymore. It can tailor to the players. Are you finding yourself doing that where your playlist is very different than it might have been on a previous game day?
Absolutely. It took us a little while during the practices and even during the game to get used to playing the artificial crowd noise, which is, I'd say it's different than what you're hearing on television, which is the enhanced audio and I think unlike baseball, that's playing their enhanced audio in the bowl. So that if there's a touchdown, you hear the crowd cheering. In stadium, just in the stadium speakers, we're not playing that enhanced audio. Okay. So it's really just a 70 decibel crowd murmur there are a little bit of ups and downs. We laughed a couple times during the game that it just so happened that when one of our guys had a great play, the crowd in the murmur would get a little more excited. But it's really just this baseline murmur, and we're not used to playing music during games or playing any audio during games. You know, right. The rules typically are that when you're on defense and the opposing team center touches the ball, or when the play clock hits 20 seconds, you have to have all your audio silent. And now that crowd noise is there the whole time coming from our audio, our A1, it's a little. It took a little while. The first couple of times you're like, hey, we got to turn that off by 20, and then you realize that okay, no, this is different. Mm-hmm. And then you're right. I think we have we have a great idea of what we want to play in terms of music when we have 70,000 fans. And I always joke about music on game day. The example I use is that my wife and I can't agree on music in the car. It's tough to get 70,000 people to agree to music. Yeah. And so not having the fans, our playlist definitely mimicked more of our team's playlist that they play out at practice. But it's still a mix. It's still a variety of music, but mostly on the harder rock and hip hop side. Not as much Bruce Springsteen as I would like as a Jersey guy.
I hear you on that. Yeah.
Last Sunday, but yeah, still a nice mix, nice variety of music.
Cool. Well, now that you guys have gotten that first week in the bag, you're coming off of a very unique offseason. The draft happened under very unique circumstances, very impressive, but unique circumstances considering where we were at that time, pretty fresh in the quarantine at that point.
Yep.
What did you one of the things lost in this offseason were those, tactile touch points of training camp and preseason games. And, on game days, you're losing those in-person interactions. What did you try and what did you learn in the offseason as far as digital content creation is concerned, that has you doing things that maybe you weren't doing before? And how have those lessons kind of carried you into the season to continue to engage all of your fans, even though they can't physically come to your space?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting with the draft, which you're right, is an incredible accomplishment by the NFL and the broadcast partners to pull that off. And we had great collaboration with our general manager and our head coach. And for us, the phone calls to the player once you draft them can be a really great moment. And it's always exciting for the first round pick and second round picks, but even some of the late round picks that have tremendous stories, some of those phone calls are just really touching. They're so humanizing. And so our general manager, Eric DaCosta, he had his family still film him making those phone calls and sharing those with our content team, with our website, and our social media. At the end of every night, he did a direct message to the fans, how he thought the day went, what he was looking forward to the next day, kind of check-ins. It was great. Our head coach, John Harbaugh, was doing the same thing in terms of filming, having someone in his household film his calls with some of the players. And then we were able to deliver a great moment after the draft was over. Our GM and head coach are neighbors. And so afterwards, after the draft was over, Eric walked into his backyard and walked up to the fence that him and John share, and had a moment. And we're really excited about the draft, and chatted socially distanced. And Eric had a family member film that. So that was great. And that was, I think we're all in this industry, or at least maybe we're a little bit snobbish. In terms of we want to shoot everything on our best cameras and lit really well and all that kind of stuff. And I think this off season has definitely pushed us to work with more virtual interviews and to work with cell phone content shot by a family member and still provide great content for our fans. And as that's translated into this season, we're working with Brian Billick, our former Super Bowl winning head coach in the Ring of Honor last year. He's not even living in the state, and he's still breaking down film for us for our website and social media channels virtually, which in past years I'm not sure whether we would have been cool with that, because we probably would have rather him been in this studio that I'm in now, and having it lit well and sound a little better. And so we've evolved in that way, and that's pretty exciting because it's opening us up to new opportunities, like working with Coach Billick.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely some things that I'm sure we'll love to get back to when we can get back to having more physical people around. But it's definitely allowed people to kind of let their guard down a little bit as far as some of that stuff is concerned.
100%. And I mean, in terms of engaging with our fans, you brought up training camp specifically. With not having fans at training camp and with having a really exciting team and a really fired up fan base that wants so badly to engage with us, that's where the training camp live show that we produced every day came from. Was how can we give fans access to training camp to see the rookies, to see the new players, to see the veterans, and still engage with them. And so it was a real challenge to get that set up and to be able to produce that type of show from our practice facility. We hadn't done it before and needed to do it obviously safely. Safety is the number one priority for us. So how can we get robotic cameras on our talent, but to still have them lit well enough on the field while they're staying away from everybody? And how can we still provide that content, and also provide content that the fans would like and would want to engage with, but that also wouldn't give away too much for competitive reasons. So we worked with Tagboard, longtime partner of ours, to bring in fan polling on Twitter and to bring in fan questions from Facebook comments when we were streaming it. And so that was a great success. We can't do interviews in this studio space anymore for the season. And we still have our TV show that we produce weekly. So we were able to build a smaller second studio in another room in this facility. And so that way our talent can be in this space, and our head coach or a player can be in the other space and still communicate with each other. So kind of the best of both worlds. They're speaking to each other virtually, but they're both lit well and on our nice cameras. So we have a great team here, and so everybody that we work with here is brilliant, and everybody put their heads together and hasn't missed a beat. I mean, the content, I'm continually impressed with the content that our team is pulling out despite the restrictions and circumstances that we're in.
Yeah, that's been the most fascinating part across the board in the NFL and beyond, is just seeing how people have been able to pivot and not only just like keep the boat afloat, but actually keep the boat doing tricks and flips and cool things that people
exactly.
still watch.
I mean, our social content for week one of this season outperformed week one of last season,
really?
Despite
Wow.
the restrictions.
Yeah,
so,
that's fascinating.
I mean, that's just amazing. I'm just amazed by our team to be able to pull that off.
Well, not to put you on the spot, and I know this is like the worst because you're like, frick, I'm gonna forget somebody. But how did you and your team get to this point? Throw out some bouquets. Who's helped make this all possible?
Yeah, so with the protocols that the NFL has in place, we have a few folks on our team who are in tier 2, who are around the players, who can be around the players and the coaches to produce content, obviously from a socially distanced space and all that. But Eddie Coughlin and Nick Modisette on our team they've been at this facility every single day since the start of training camp, and long hours and figuring out different rules and how to work within the rules and how to produce great content, despite the circumstances. So they earn huge kudos, and I can't wait till they can get a day off and sleep, but it's probably going to be in January or hopefully February when that happens.
Yeah.
And then we have great partners too. Our partners at the stadium, the Maryland Stadium Authority, being able to get our control room ready to produce those 2 simultaneous broadcasts between the folks at the Stadium Authority and the folks at a partner of ours, VPC. They did such a great job and went above and beyond. We can't thank them enough for being able to put those live shows off the ground, despite the circcircumstances. And I mean, everybody on my staff, I don't want to name them all because I'll leave them all out, but
it's fair.
Just everybody doing the work. Everything's taking longer. Every edit takes a little bit longer now when some folks are remote, some folks are back in the facility. It's not as simple as running out during a game and running out, meeting the camera, whoever's shooting camera, and grabbing a card. so we can start editing. There's none of that. So everything's just taking a little bit longer, and it's taking longer hours and taking folks away from their families longer than even a normal season. And everybody's on board. I mean, we all have the same goal, and we push each other, and they push me, and I'm impressed with all of them. I'm happy to have this team behind me.
Well, promises to be a very exciting year in Baltimore, that's for sure. He is Jay O'Brien, Vice President of Broadcasting and Gameday Productions with the Baltimore Ravens. Jay, thank you so much for taking the time, especially in the middle of the beginning of your season. Congrats again on week 1, and we here wish you guys nothing but the best going forward the rest of the way.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Brandon.
All right, you can find out more and learn from more NFL teams from across the league in our On the Gridiron series. Just head on over to sportsvideo.org for the complete list.